this is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
La 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 la. La 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 la.
This is how we do it.
Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of installing and upgrading EXSI Server. My name is John Keller, aka the IT Beast, and part 2 is going to be essentially demonstrating how to convert a virtual machine from VMware Player I Workstation to the EXSI Server. And the reason we need to do this is that we need something in order to test for when we get ready to do part 3, which will be, of course, upgrading the EXSI Server. So let's move on. Okay, so definition is right there. Simplicity, it just converts from one format to another, usually from format A, which is everything you see in here in the definition, to some type of VMware product. In this case, we're going from the same product to the same product. So it's going to be quite easy. However, as you can see, it can be used for either, with backups with Ghost, Acronis, Backup Exec. More importantly is that you can also virtualize physical machines with this application. So if you have an old Windows 98, Windows 2000, of course now old Windows XP machine that you want to keep because it's running some 20-year-old application you can't do without, well, this is an answer so you can retire that physical machine and let it live on in its a little space somewhere where it's not harming anybody. Okay, prerequisites needed for this demonstration are, as you can see, pretty much what it was in part 1. And the only reason why I listed them again is because it shows you that everything we did from part 1 will be needed for what we're doing in part 2. So quickly, you can look over the references. And again, if you need to, I will have a link to part 1, which will go over how to obtain or install any of these. Of course, converter we're going to be doing with this demonstration in part 2, which brings everything together that we did in part 1. And the other thing, of course, is the guest operating system. So now we're only doing a test environment, so we don't want to do anything really resource heavy. And since this is going from a virtual machine to virtual machine, it has to be a 32-bit operating system. The only two things that can be converted to is either a Windows format or a Linux format. Now with Windows, you just have to be aware that the legality of Windows is still out there, even through as a virtual machine. So if you don't have a legally obtained license to be using that copy of Windows you have, then you can't legally use it. I'm not your net nanny. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just throwing that out there. If you want to play it by the prim and proper, you can download a Linux virtual, and they don't care about that. You can do whatever you want with that. My choice always is Ubuntu. It's the easiest one to use. Okay, host requirements. Now, again, it really hasn't changed a whole lot because, again, it's from part 1. I sort of bumped up the RAM a little bit between 4 to 6. I mean, realistic is kind of what you need for what, even in this test environment. 8 would be better. Again, you can use dual core, but quad core. And then you see the other requirements there. You can still use Windows XP SP3, even though it is now at this time into life. I would personally recommend you use at least Windows 7. If you have to, find a copy of Windows Vista. Now, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to just take you straight to the download link for VMware Converter. Alright, so now we are on the VMware.com page. We're going to go to Downloads. And in Downloads, you can see there's the vCenter Converter. So we will click on that. Alright, so once again, it's asking you to either create an account or register with the account you already have. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my account. go ahead now, log in. Go to license and download. And then we were going to go ahead and download the most current version of vCenter Converter. As you can see, it's not even a month old yet. It just released this one. So we're going to go ahead and choose manually download. Save file. Make sure you remember where you put it, and just choose anywhere on a drive that you know where it's going to be at, and hit save. Okay, so now we're going to go to where we downloaded the executable file for vCenter Converter. There is our file. We'll go ahead and open it. Then we will click Run. Okay, we are at the installation start screen. We are going to click Next. View over the rights that VMware has protecting their product. Hit Next. And I agree or I don't agree to the terms of the license. And if you don't agree to them, you won't be able to use the product. So, of course, we agree. Next. All right, here you have the option of changing the install directory. Just go with the default unless you feel otherwise. If so, just go ahead and hit change and then choose the directory you want to install it into. All right, here you have two choices. One is the local installation, which is pretty much 90% of the time you're going to go with. Second one is a client server installation. You can just install it on another client if you wish to do so. But even when you do a physical install, it's going to send a physical conversion. It's going to send an agent over there anyway. So again, just stick with local installation and click Next. All right, it says we are now ready to begin the install. So we are going to click Install. All right, as you see, it's finished installing. You can either leave that checked or unchecked. In our case, we're going to leave it checked because we are going to run the converter now. So we're going to go ahead and click Finish. So now we're going to go ahead and start the conversion process now that we've opened up our VMware converter. So we're going to open up where it says Convert Machine. And as you can see with this dialog box, we have Select Source Type. In this instance, since we are converting a VMware product to EXSI Server, we're going to choose this option. However, there are the other options, which I'm not going over today, but later down the road. You can do a physical machine. You can even do an infrastructure back to, say, a VMware player. You can even do as the backup image as explained in the definition of like Acronis, backup exec, even Hyper-V. But today we are just going to be doing this as a source. So we are now going to browse. Okay. So we'll go and we'll find the template we want to convert to EXSI Server format. In this case, we're going to use this. I have a license, so I'm going to go ahead and use this for our test virtual. Then I am going to hit Next. And as you can see, it's retrieving the source information, it's reading through it. This may take about 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, we're back on the screen again. All right, so now it's saying, okay, what do you want to send this to? Being the destination, we're going to do an VMware infrastructure, which is the EXSI server. And it's asking for the server name. Again, since I'm not using DNS, we're using IP here. And then I will put in the root password, since this is just a test environment. Then we will hit next. Alright, as you can see, we are now connected to the EXSI server. And it's asking if you want to keep that name or you want to change the name. We're going to change it to test. Now, if there are other virtual machines on here already, which they're not, you would see the virtual machines that were already listed on that server right here. Alright, so here's the local host of the name of the server. It's like, again, this is basic. You could change, when you make your EXSI server, you can change the name and make it, Bugs Bunny at localdomain.com, however you want to do it. The data store, alright, we only have one, so it's going to be data store 1, but in a bigger environment, you'll see several data stores. Shows us we have almost 92 gigabytes of free hard drive space. And it's asking which version you want to convert this to. We're going to convert it to 8, which is on par with EXSI 5.0 and up, which will work with most stuff. So 8's the way to go. 9 and 10 you could go, but it's still fairly new, so not everything will work the way you may want it to. So hold off on doing that. All right, we're going to hit next. Alright, there's a few things we may want to change. One of them is you're going to want to use a thing called thin provision on your hard disk. Okay, what thin provision is basically the same hamburger you eat but less calories. The best way to explain it. In layman's terms, what it does is by using thin, it will only, for instance, if you have provisioned 40 gigs of hard drive space and you're only using 9 or 10 gigabytes at that moment, that's all that it's going to allocate. And then I'll have like 30 on reserve for you when you start filling it up. So thin's the best way to go. This will maximize the space on your EXSI server. That's the only thing you need to change there. Okay, for memory, 1 gig is good with Windows XP, especially running SP3. So we'll leave that alone. CPUs, we're just going to leave this alone for right now. But you can change that if you would like. Okay, it's going to give it another NIC, so don't be surprised if you were to transfer your virtual machine to your EXSI server if all of a sudden it isn't talking, because it switches out NICs during the transition. So make sure you check your virtual NIC upon completion when you power it on your EXSI server. Services, you can decide to change whatever services. This you normally just leave alone unless you know exactly what you're doing here. For the advanced stuff, as you can see, there's a grayed out customized guest preferences for this virtual machine. You can go ahead and use a sysprep file, especially this is what you'll use on Windows XP or Server 2003, and customize it as it's being transferred over. Or you can leave it at the default, which we are. You also have the option of having it powered on upon completion. I always leave it powered off just to make sure that I have everything I want on it before you go. And the throttling, never touch this. I would not touch it. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. Okay, it's going to give you a summary of what you're asking for it to be done. As you can see, it's going to go to the virtual hardware version 8 as we chose. This is the host it's going to be going to. You're connected as root right now. The name of the host. The number of CPUs. The physical memory you've chosen. The NIC count. And which data store. In this case, we're choosing one because that's all there is. Your choice is here, and I believe there's a thing for it says thin provisioned for your thin provisioned disk. Yes, this is very important. You would really do remember to choose it, because if not, when you send the whole thing over, you do just use more room than you need to on your storage. So now we're going to go ahead and finish. And what's going to happen here is, there we go, it's going to convert. Now while it's converting, I am going to go ahead and pause this so you do not fall asleep during the conversion process. Because while it says an hour and 3 minutes, it doesn't usually take maybe that long. I think the last time I did it was about 40 minutes or so. But who wants to sit around and look at a blank screen for 40 minutes? You can see that we are now completed our conversion to EXSI Server. And the complete time was, oh, there you go, 40 minutes. And then it shows the highlights of what was done. So now that we're done with the conversion, we are going to exit out of vCenter Converter. We are then going to open up our vSphere client, which of course is our only way of talking to our EXSI server. Once again, it's going to be root and the password. Give me 1 second and I will move it over so we can see it. There we go. Alright, so when I hit this plus sign, as you can see, there is our virtual machine right there. I'm going to go back up here, go to virtual machines, and I'm going to show you a little bit here. Remember I said how we provisioned about 40 gigabytes of space, but as you can see, only 2 kilobits are being used right now because I haven't turned it on. But even when I do turn it on, it will still not show the full 40 gigs. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and power our virtual machine on. Go over here, we're going to right click, and we're going to open a console. But first, before we do that, we're going to power it on. So power it on, and you can see little green right arrows come up, which is a good sign. And then we are going to open the console. Don't let this alarm you. It does take generally maybe 10 to 30 seconds for it to open up. But when it does, as you can see, it does work. Now the only thing you may have to do is after you've exported this machine, since I don't think I've updated the VMware tools and God knows how long on this particular virtual machine, is you may have to reinstall the VMware tools from your menu right here. So you go to VM, go to guest, and then you install the upgrade VMware tools. But you can do that when on your own time. So okay, it's booting up right now. All right, I'm going to click into the virtual. All right, so it is now open. It may take a second or two because we are opening a virtual machine within a virtual machine, which is so amazing that you can do that. But as you can see, There's really very little latency on this, almost none. That is essentially it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to power her down, turn off, and again, like I said, very good response time for a virtual within a virtual. And we are powering off. So what we've done now, we are set ourselves up for part 3, which will be where we actually upgrade the EXSI server from 5.0 to 5.5. Yes, I am aware that this is EXSI server 5.5 we're using now, but I will get that ready for our next video. Okay, so it's done. You can close the box now. And it is powered off. So again, I want to thank you for taking your time to watch my video. I hope you learned something out of it. If you liked it, please hit that like button. And if you really like it, go ahead and subscribe. So until part 3, I will see you real soon.